Welcome back to Kleppers Corner, the show where we take a date on the calendar, turn it upside down, shake it, and see what historical weirdness falls out, like a piñata filled with monarchs, revolutions, computer mice, and the occasional cult leader. Today, we dive into November 17th, a date that is less day of the week and more cosmic fulcrum, where history said, screw it, let's do everything. Monarchs rise, empires crumble, students revolt, Disney animators get their groove back, and Douglas Engelbart patents a device that absolutely no one in 1970 understood, because computers were still the size of studio apartments. This is a date where power shifts, continents shrink, and cults, well, cult. So buckle up. November 17th is a roller coaster, but the safety bar was installed by the lowest bidder. Segment 1, the dawn of the Elizabethan era. Let's begin with a classic. November 17th, 1558. The moment Elizabeth I becomes queen and England collectively exhales, like someone finally opened a window after 5 years of Bloody Mary's religious deodorant. Elizabeth steps onto the throne at age 25, inheriting a kingdom as stable as a folding chair at a family reunion. The nation had whiplash from religious flip-flopping, civil unrest, and more burnings than a middle school roast battle. Elizabeth's first move? Maybe dial back the public executions and try something wild, like literacy. Her religious settlement of 1559 basically said, look, can we all chill? We're going full Protestant, but with comfy Catholic throw pillows so nobody riots. That compromise gave England the political breathing room to invent Shakespeare, naval dominance, and eventually that British sense of superiority that says, we don't season food, but we conquered half the planet. Elizabeth's rise marked the start of a cultural explosion, fueled by poetry, music, theater, and the occasional stylish beheading. It is undeniably one of the biggest glow-ups in political history. Segment 2, the death of Catherine the Great. Fast forward to November 17th, 1796. Catherine the Great dies, ending not only Russia's Enlightenment, but apparently the world's favorite historical rumor that she died having sex with a horse. No, she didn't. Stop Googling it. What actually happened was far less dramatic. A stroke, a bed, and a court that immediately panicked because they knew who was coming next. Paul I, her estranged and resentful son, takes the throne like a man inheriting a company he fully intends to run into the ground. Catherine spent 34 years expanding Russia, modernizing culture, and writing letters to Voltaire like they were text flirting. Paul spent much of her reign hating her reign. Within months, he began undoing Catherine's reforms, so aggressively that you'd think he was being paid by the hour. Her death marks a hard pivot away from Enlightenment-era Russia into let's militarize everything and distrust ideas. It's the day Russia's golden age went night-night, and Paul turned the lights off on his way in. Segment 3, the Articles of Confederation. November 17th, 1777. The Continental Congress submits the Articles of Confederation, America's first government, which functioned about as well as a Wi-Fi signal in a bunker. The states said, we want freedom, but also we don't want to listen to each other, pay taxes, or contribute to anything. The Articles built a central government so weak it couldn't levy taxes, regulate commerce, or even raise an army without getting permission slips from all 13 states. It was basically the group project where everyone assumes someone else is doing the work. The result? 4 years of land disputes, money shortages, interstate fighting, and Congress passing laws that states politely ignored like spam emails. But this failure was essential. Without the Articles face-planting, the founders never would have drafted the Constitution, which, for all its flaws, at least gave the federal government the power to do, well, anything at all. November 17th marks the day America built its first political house, realized it was made of cardboard, and decided maybe brick was worth the investment. Segment 4, Mizushima, Balliol, and a shady treaty. November 17th is also a day for medieval chaos. In 1183, the Battle of Mizushima unfolds, a naval clash where the Taira clan lashed their ships together into a floating battlefield and absolutely dunked on the Minamoto. Brilliant tactic, terrible long-term plan, because 5 years later, the Taira lose the whole war. It's like winning a single hand of poker right before pawning your chair. Then in 1292, John Balliol becomes King of Scotland, handpicked by England's Edward I. which should have been a red flag the size of Hadrian's Wall. Balliol's reign collapses faster than a piñata at a kid's birthday party, leading directly to the Wars of Scottish Independence. And in 1511, we get the Treaty of Westminster, Henry VIII teaming up with his father-in-law, Ferdinand of Aragon, to fight France. Fun twist, Ferdinand manipulated Henry so thoroughly that he basically turned England into his personal decoy. Diplomacy, now with extra backstabbing. Segment 5, the Suez Canal, a global game changer. Now we hit November 17, 1869, the inauguration of the Suez Canal, a waterway so important that if it so much as sneezes, global inflation goes up. This engineering marvel sliced nearly 6,000 miles off the Europe to Asia trip and instantly became one of the world's biggest geopolitical choke points. The canal's opening was a glittering imperial spectacle. European royalty, fireworks, and a whole lot of colonial smugness. But the aftermath was pure chaos. The canal becomes the world's most valuable traffic jam, leading to British occupation, multiple wars, and eventually the 1956 Suez Crisis, where nations basically fought over the world's most profitable shortcut. Even today, one stuck ship can tank global supply chains. Literally. November 17th is the day humanity shrank the planet, monetized it, and then realized, oops, there's only one lane. Segment 6, David Livingstone and Victoria Falls. In 1855, David Livingstone becomes the first European to see Victoria Falls and proceeds to name it after Queen Victoria, as if the waterfall needed rebranding. The locals already called it Moccio Atunya, the smoke that thunders, which, let's be honest, is way cooler. Livingstone's discovery becomes a PR sensation and helps spark the scramble for Africa, proving once again that Europe's #1 hobby was going places that already had names and renaming them. His tales of adventure inspired explorers, missionaries, and colonizers who followed with less curiosity and more acquisition paperwork. November 17th marks the moment an awe-inspiring natural wonder became a marketing tool for imperial ambition. Segment 7, Prague, 1939 and 1989. November 17th is International Students' Day for a reason. In 1939, Nazis executed student leaders and shut down Czech universities. Because nothing says fear of ideas like attacking people who haven't even finished finals. Exactly 50 years later, students in Prague marched to commemorate that tragedy. The communist government responded with police violence so tone-deaf, it may as well have been choreographed by irony itself. Instead, it sparked the Velvet Revolution, a movement so smooth, so peaceful, so successfully non-violent that the name sounds like a trendy cocktail. Within weeks, the Communist Party collapsed, and by December, Václav Havel, a dissident playwright, became president. When writers are overthrowing governments, you know the regime wasn't doing great. Segment 8, the Athens Polytechnic Uprising. 16 years earlier, November 17th, 1973, in Athens, students stage a massive uprising against the military junta. The junta responds in the least subtle way possible, with a tank. The assault kills dozens across the city and becomes the moment Greece sees the brute cruelty behind the regime's propaganda. Instead of restoring order, the crackdown backfires, triggering political collapse and the end of the dictatorship. Greece now commemorates the day as Polytechneo, a national moment of mourning, resistance, and reminding the United States, hey, we remember who backed the junta. The event even inspires a terrorist group called 17 November, which is about the darkest, inspired by true events label imaginable. Segment 9, the computer mouse patent. November 17th, 1970, Douglas Engelbart patents the computer mouse, a device that would eventually lead to millions of people arguing with their desktops like they're sentient. The mouse is more than a gadget. It's the symbol of Engelbart's vision of augmenting human intelligence. But in 1970, nobody grasps this. It's like inventing a steering wheel before cars exist. Only after Xerox, Apple, and Microsoft borrow his ideas, does the mouse become iconic. November 17th is the moment computing stops being a command line dungeon and starts becoming visual, interactive, and dangerously addictive. Segment 10, The Little Mermaid and the Disney Renaissance. On November 17, 1989, while democracy breaks out in Prague, Disney releases The Little Mermaid. This film doesn't just succeed, it resurrects the entire animation studio. Before Ariel, Disney was stuck in a creative slump so deep you'd think it was trying to mine for coal. But boom, Alan Menken, Howard Ashman, Broadway-style musical numbers, and an entire generation grows up knowing every word to Under the Sea. The film kicks off the Disney Renaissance. Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, the whole golden decade. Without November 17, 1989, Disney might still be making depressing talking animal movies where everyone wears earth tones. Segment 11, Jonestown, The Point of No Return. Then comes November 17, 1978. Congressman Leo Ryan arrives at the Jonestown commune. His visit triggers the chain reaction that ends in mass murder the following day. Cult members ask to leave with him. Jones panics, paranoia kicks in, and suddenly the dystopian playbook activates. Ryan is assassinated the next day, and over 900 people are forced into revolutionary suicide. This is the moment where tragedy becomes inevitable, the point where reality snaps and the cult lashes out. November 17th isn't the massacre, but it is the match dropped into the gasoline. In conclusion, so what is November 17th? A date where power changes hands, from Elizabeth ascending to Catherine departing. A day where nations experiment with government, sometimes disastrously. A day that shrinks continents, reroutes oceans, and turns waterfalls into imperial postcards. A day that unleashes students onto the streets, sometimes facing tanks, sometimes toppling regimes. A day where technology jumps forward and animation gets its groove back. And yes, a day that sets one of history's darkest tragedies into motion. November 17th is a reminder that history isn't evenly distributed. Some days whisper, some days scream. And this one changes the world over and over again. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into the chaos of a single date, join me next time when we explore another moment where humanity collectively said, hey, let's make this complicated.